The house was silent, save for the faint sound of dripping water from the rusted faucet in the kitchen. A dim, flickering light struggled against the thick darkness of the cramped home, casting eerie shadows along the peeling walls. Somewhere in the small, rotting house, a child hummed a tune, soft, broken, yet haunting.
Nanay, Tatay, gusto bang tinapay? Ate, kuya, gusto bang kape?
Her voice was barely above a whisper, but it carried through the hollow house like a ghost's lament. She sat curled in the corner of a small, damp room, her frail body nothing more than skin and bone. Her name was Ise. She used to dream of warm hands combing through her tangled hair, of soft kisses on her forehead before bedtime. She used to dream of her mother's lullabies and her father's protective arms. But those dreams had long faded, replaced by the sharp sting of a belt, the bite of hunger clawing at her insides, and the suffocating cold of a home that had forgotten how to love. The house reeked of something old, something rotten. The stench of mold, of unwashed clothes, of spoiled food clinging to the kitchen counters. But worst of all was the iron tang of dried blood seeping into the wooden floorboards where Ise's tiny body had often been struck down. Her family of 5 should have meant love, warmth, and belonging. But it meant something far different for her. Her mother, Aling Rosa, once had soft hands. Now, they were rough from years of labor, but Ise never remembered them as kind. They delivered slaps that left her ears ringing, fists that knocked the air from her chest. Her father, Mang Lido, was a quiet man, but silence was more terrifying than anger. His eyes were always empty, like he had already buried her in his mind. Sometimes he would drink, and that was worse. The drinking made his hands heavy and his patience thin. Her older sister, Anna, and her brother, Jojo, had long since learned that kindness toward Ise meant punishment. They turned their backs when she was hit. They looked away when she cried. They whispered about her like she was a ghost haunting their home, something to be ignored until she disappeared completely. But she was still there, still breathing, still begging. She wasn't sure when she had last eaten. Was it yesterday? Or the day before? Her stomach twisted and gurgled in protest. She had tried stealing scraps before, but the last time she did, her mother shoved her hand onto the burning stove. She still had the scars, jagged and pink, a cruel reminder. So she had learned to endure. She had learned to starve. There was a place where Ise spent most of her time, a small wooden closet in the corner of the house. It was where her mother shoved her when she was too much, when her cries annoyed them, when they didn't want to see her. Inside, it was always dark. The air was thick with dust, and the only sounds were the rats scurrying nearby, their tiny feet tapping against the wood. Ise used to scream when they locked her inside. But she had learned screaming only made it worse. Now she just hummed.
Nanay, Tatay, gusto bang tinapay? Ate, kuya, gusto bang kape?
The song became her comfort, her plea. It was everything she longed for but would never have. Her sister Anna had tinape every morning, its scent filling the house, while Ise sat in the corner, licking her cracked lips. Her brother Jojo sipped his warm cape, laughing as steam curled from the cup, and Ise had nothing. She thought maybe, if she sang it enough times, someone would hear. Someone would listen. But no one ever did. It was cold that night, the kind of cold that burrowed deep into your bones, that made your fingers stiff and your breath slow. Ise was locked in the closet again, her body trembling from hunger and exhaustion. She couldn't remember the last time she had been let out. Her lips were dry. Her throat ached. But still she sang.
Nanay, Tatay, gusto bang tinapay, ate, kuya, gusto kong kape.
Her voice cracked, but she kept singing. She had to. She sang until her breaths became shallow, until the weight of her own body felt too heavy, until the hunger wasn't hunger anymore, just a dull, distant ache. And then, finally, there was silence. No more humming, no more crying, just the dark. Morning came, and the house was as it always was. Anna and Jojo bickered over breakfast. Their mother scolded them while their father sat silently, sipping his coffee. No one noticed the absence of the small, frail girl. Not at first. It wasn't until later that Anna hesitantly walked to the closet, her stomach twisting with something she didn't quite understand. When she opened the door, she expected to see Aisei curled up, eyes wide, waiting to be let out. But Aisei didn't move. She just sat there, her head resting against the wooden wall, her lips parted slightly as if she were about to whisper something. Her eyes were open, but there was nothing inside them. And in the silence, the house finally listened. For the first time, they heard the song that had been there all along.
Nanay, tatay, gusto kong tinapay, ate, kuya, gusto kong kape.
It echoed in the walls, in the air, a soundless melody that would never leave. They buried Aisei in an unmarked grave, pretending she had never existed. No one spoke of her after that. Not at breakfast. Not at dinner. Not even when the house grew too quiet and her absence felt like a wound they couldn't see. But she had not left. At night, when the house was still, the humming began. Soft at first, almost like a whisper.
Nanay, tatay, gusto kong tinapay,
Then louder.
ate, kuya, gusto kong kape.
Anna woke in the middle of the night, her hands trembling as she covered her ears. But the song was inside her head, inside the walls, inside her bones. Jojo saw her in the corner of his room, her hollow eyes staring, her lips moving, but no sound coming out. Their mother found pieces of tinapay missing from the kitchen. Their father's coffee cup was always cold before he could take the first sip. And the closet door, it never stayed shut. Years passed, and the family moved away, but the house remained. A new family moved in, a happy one, with a little girl who loved to sing. But soon, she began to hum a tune she had never been taught.
Nanay, tatay, gusto kong tinapay, ate, kuya, gusto kong kape.
She sang it in the morning. She sang it at night. And when her parents asked where she had learned it, she simply pointed to the dark corner of her room.
There,
She whispered.
the girl in the closet taught me.
If you like this new program that we started, let us know in the comments below. Thank you for tuning in. Please leave a like and subscribe. I will see you again next week.